What's going on, guys? It's your boy Random Guy Kev, and this is Thoughts of a Random Guy. We talk about many things dealing with love, dating, relationships, adulting, life's ups and downs, and the ever-evolving world of just being a human. Don't forget to check me out on all your favorite social media platforms at Random Guy Kev and my website, randomguykev.com. Today's topic is weaponizing therapy, and my co-host for this episode is...
What's up, guys? I'm back again. This is Eric.
Welcome, Eric, for joining us for this topic, weaponizing therapy. Um, I feel like we all, some of us, good number of us go to therapy, and sometimes we don't know exactly what that weaponizing therapy thing is until you actually like experiencing it. A quick definition of weaponizing therapy is just refers to the manipulation of and misuse of therapeutic concept, terms, and tools to gain an advantage in an interpersonal conflict. It's a form of emotional abuse and psychological manipulation, often used to control a narrative, invalidate a partner's feelings, or avoid accountability. There's different forms of weaponizing therapy, or, sometimes somebody could say, hey, you're a narcissist, and when you're just expressing how you feel, or some other things. I had a list of examples, and I accidentally pressed delete on my screen, so it's fine. It's fine. In most cases, they try to avoid blame by turning the conversation, just turning the conversation away from them, their issues, and what's going on with them. Have you experienced someone weaponizing therapy against you?
I think to one degree or another, and some, like for example, I had a roommate who would not take responsibility for their own actions and internalized would go to therapy for like a month or whatever their duration is, and they would use the lessons that they learned that they would normally you would think to like better yourself. You're like, oh, this is a behavior that I am changing, or I need to change, and it might start off that way, but then you all of a sudden, now that you have new tools, it's like a new word, right? You once you hear a word, you think you hear it all the time now, and when they go to therapy, they're like, oh, I had this tool, and if anybody embodies that trait, they think that, oh no, then it's like I get to use it as a tool to divert blame towards yourself, especially if you're in a place where you're not able to see your actions. So let's say I know a lot of people have a hard time with the term boundaries or setting boundaries, and sometimes we don't know what a boundary looks like, and so when we try to set one, it has some room for misuse, like to avoid accountability, to silence others. For example, like, I'm setting a boundary by not letting you talk about your feelings with me because it makes me uncomfortable. Like that, you're shutting a door where now you're isolating another person by saying it's a boundary, and like, yeah, you can say that, like, hey, when you talk about these things or you talk about your feelings, it does make me uncomfortable, but now you're shutting off the ability to learn about those feelings by just saying it's a boundary and shutting that person out when they're trying to share something, because you know like ourselves, everyone else around us is experiencing the same POV, and experiencing life on their own terms, and experiences aren't universal. I think that's a really...
Yeah, and I think that people use therapy as a threat sometimes, where it's like, hey, if you don't change, we're going to therapy, or I'm only staying if you go to therapy. That could be a form of manipulation of just the therapeutic process as a whole. Um, Threatening with therapy. I mean, I've heard people do it before, so it's not nothing new to me. But it's like, I feel like in certain cases, people do need therapy. It's like, hey, bro, like, take a step back, you may need to go to therapy. In some cases, it may not be a threat. In other cases, it could be where it's like, hey, I'm leaving you if you don't go to therapy and
I
seek help.
yeah, there I think there is a gray area in that where, when it comes time to communication, because in any relationship, be it friendship or intimate relationship with a partner, communication is always the one thing, and that it needs to be, like good communication can get you very far in life. And when it comes time to telling somebody that they might need therapy or have they considered therapy, making it an ultimatum can put pressure on them and also make that person feel like they're an issue or like they're a problem. And another word like triggering can also be weaponized, but that can be a just for anyone listening who that word means something to them, that that it can be triggering to that person, where you could push that person away or regress any progress that they have been trying to make, because our efforts are our own, and sometimes other people don't see those efforts. So you might be trying and they're pushing that on you, like, oh, if you don't go to therapy, then we're done, we're over. And I understand that they might be going through a frustration, but using that like that is a lack of communication on their end, which a topic like therapy is a pretty sensitive one to some people. So sometimes you need to be a little gracious with how it's approached.
Way back in the day, talk about mental health and therapy, it's like kind of taboo, but now it's like a lot of times people use therapy as an excuse for their behavior. As far as like, hey, I'm only this way. As far as I'm only this way, but I'm going through therapy to figure it out. And it's like, you've been going through therapy to figure it out for the past like couple months now. Like, and they throw their bad behavior or what they do as far as like lying, cheating, their personal like mindset on, hey, I'm trying to figure it out. I have anxiety, I have trauma. I'm going to therapy to figure it out. And it's kind of just like throwing it on therapy to figure it out, instead of being like, no, this is me.
Yeah.
This is actually me.
It's like, what is the work? When I say that you got to do the work, like, what does the work mean to you? And how far does that go? Because you gotta, and that's when you have that long hard talk with yourself about what that means and what you want changed out of life, because you're gonna hit a block, you're gonna hit a wall, when you say you want change, but you are preventing yourself from growing by not taking accountability and using what you learn as a way to stay the same. Because therapy is meant for personal growth, and when you grow, you have to change in a way. There are aspects of things that you can alter, or not that you have to change yourself completely, but like there's nothing wrong with gaining new tools.
Yeah, and I think that, people like to misuse like therapy speak, in a sense. Like, they'll use it against you. Like, they'll use words like gaslighting and boundaries and trauma, like you said before, incorrectly, like out of context. An example would be like, if I'm expressing my feelings to my partner and they're just saying you're gaslighting me, and it's like, I'm expressing a different perspective than you. How's that gaslighting? And I feel like a lot of people nowadays, they love to just throw out words. Oh, you're a narcissist, and oh, you're gaslighting. Oh, you're this, you're that. And it's like, do you really know what that means before you use a word? I feel like we're in the day and age now where people just use terminology and words and stuff like that just to use them because they heard them somewhere.
Yeah, it's like a hot word that they came across while doom scrolling at 2 a.m.
Yeah, and it was, oh, this sounds right. Yeah,
oh shit, yeah, this applies.
Yeah, this applies to this situation. It's like, bro, what? And then at the same time, those people, some people that are in therapy and they have a partner or a friend that isn't in therapy, they tend to make it seem like they're more intelligent because they go to therapy in some cases.
Yeah.
And it's like, No, I mean, you have your way to heal. I have my own way to heal.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of time, like, so, like, for this, for example, the what I was alluding to before, it was very much like there was a sense of, I wouldn't say entitlement because I don't have another word off the top of my head, but it was very much along the lines of it felt like what they said because, that it carried more weight, that it was worth more to hear, or it was like it was, there was a sense of superiority that they're bestowing this information upon you to improve yourself, when really it's like a deflection. And I think that there is a lot to be said about insecurity, because you can, it's especially if you know what you're looking for. It becomes very crystal clear that, like, oh, this was like a word that you just recently learned, or
You just learned this.
you just learned this, because, like, any reading, you can dive a little bit and be like, oh shit, that applies to me. And like, for today example, I have been doing an absolute shit ton of home improvement because we're getting our house is almost ready to be done. And so I've been listening to, like, a lot of podcasts. I've been trying to, like, redirect the things and content that I intake to learn and better my understanding. And ADHD, which is a very common thing amongst a lot of us, and in itself creates a lot of hurdles because it can affect so many little aspects of your life. And I just did a deep dive. I was just like, you know what? Instead of listening to some update on pop culture, I'm gonna start listening on to some stuff that's actually affecting my life personally, that I can control. And I was like, oh my god, how relevant is this information? That is, like, it, once you hear it, you're like, fucking obviously, why didn't I think of that before? Well, you didn't know, and how could you know until you know? And so when I was hearing it, I was just like, I had these, like, mind-blowing moments where I was like, oh fuck, that explains so much. but instead, because, like, they also will give ways for you to acknowledge, like, your partner's ADHD, right? And you're like, oh fuck, I can use, like, instead of going, oh, that makes sense, now I know how to communicate better, so that way, like, we work better, instead of going, now I'm going to use that against her because I know. And it's just like, it takes, man, like, you have to know, like, you have to know a little bit about yourself before you can.
No, I agree. And it's like when you said about boundaries, it's like people, I mean, I think it is healthy to set boundaries, but when people set boundaries that in a way that disrupts the person that they're with, or a friend's behavior. An example would be, say, if I'm with somebody, my boundary is that you can't see your friends without me.
Yeah, that's nasty.
That's control. Now you want control over somebody.
That's control. Yeah, that's extremely toxic, because who they were before you is who they're going to continue to be.
Correct.
And if you are doing something to prevent them, like you're telling me that you have to be present with me while I go see the friends I've always had, that's your insecurity, not mine.
Correct.
And that's something you need to work on, because, like, I'd love to have you be there with me and my friends if you want to be, not because you feel you have to be.
Yeah, you have to be.
There's trust there. And dude.
And that's the same thing for your hobbies too. Like, I feel like I hear so many people get out of hobbies and things that used to make them happy because their significant other didn't like it. Depending on what it is, if it's something that's like bringing you peace and it's your escape from the world, cool. But if it's something like that's idiotic or dangerous, like, don't be doing that shit. But at the same time, it's like you gotta ask the person why you don't like me. Say if going to the gun range, why you don't like me going to the gun range? Oh, I don't like guns, but I was doing this before I met you.
Yeah.
This is my escape. This is a way for me to find balance in my life. Yeah. So if I don't do this, now what?
Well, okay. So for that example, this would be I feel like would be a healthy way to approach that because, well, especially when you're having somebody who say like, well, let's use firearms for example. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like guns. Well, like I like guns and I've been liking guns and it's good for it. It feels good for me. Well, it makes me uncomfortable. Like okay, well, there's here like I hear your boundary and it is valid. It's a valid boundary. However, this isn't something that is negotiable for me. So, what I would counter with is that either um, we establish like, hey, if I'm going to go do this, then like you can
I don't tell
cut
you or
your.
something.
Well, no. I'd be like, because you can tell them like, listen, I'm not going to continue this behavior and not tell you because that is hiding, and I don't do that, right?
Yeah.
So we can create an opportunity for education. Like I'm so open to educate you on firearms and how to be comfortable with them because a lot of the time, somebody who's not comfortable with firearms just doesn't have a knowledge of how they operate.
Correct.
And I like, for example, I've got a couple of friends who have their spouses are like, oh, I want to learn guns, but I don't. It's scary to me. And I was
Scary,
like,
yeah.
well, okay, check this out. You can either get an airsoft gun, so there's no because how an airsoft gun functions is very similar to how a real firearm functions. And I just say like while you're watching a Netflix show, use it like a fidget spinner. Why does it stay open when the magazine's in? Why does the slide not stay open when the magazine's out? What does this switch do? What does that switch do? Or if you actually have a firearm, you can get dummy rounds so you know how to operate the slide and loading a bullet in the chamber with, and then what does that feel like on the trigger without it having any fear of it going off. Like there's ways that you can just play with I wouldn't say play with, but get familiar with how the ergonomics and everything work in a safe environment before you even fire the thing, you know. And you are in a safe and controlled environment. You know, I'm very happy to create that space for you, but what I will not do is take away things that bring me joy. And this is one of those things for me. So you might have a boundary, but I also have a boundary. So we need to figure out how to cohabitate you know, like how to make this work because we are at an impasse, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And again, it's like I feel like, but the thing is, a lot of people they could really like somebody, and they ignore that piece. Oh, you know, hey, I do this to detox myself. Okay, cool. Then it gets deeper into the relationship. You know, they get married or whatever, and it's like, hey, I don't like you doing that anymore. Yeah, you knew about this before. Like, what's the problem now? It's like this is my escape. This is my. It's like, well, I'm gonna set that boundary that I don't like that anymore.
I feel like in examples like that, there's often it stems from something that's going on.
Something's going on.
In there, you know, like where that's not even it might not even necessarily be the thing that they're trying to draw a line in the sand about, right? It could be some complete that's bugging them that they're not addressing in themselves, so it's coming out in another way. And for example, I mean, I've had experiences with my wife where they just so happen to be in my vicinity. They're not doing anything really that is stressful towards me, that they are not, but because of my levels of stresses that I have going on, that are just day-to-day shit, whatever it is that they're doing is pissing me off. Right? It's not them though. It's nothing. They're not doing anything out of the ordinary, and they're not doing it maliciously to irritate me. I'm just irritated. So, you know, I will catch myself going, listen, you know, we both have a lot going on. I am stressed about these things. It is coming out, and I'm sorry that you're receiving this. You don't deserve that, and vice versa, you know, like, hey, what's going on with you know, are you got anything going on that's stressing you out? Because I noticed that these things are, you know, and based off of past behaviors that we've discussed and talked about. You're like, what can I do to take some load off of your shoulders? What can I, like, instead of being like, you always fucking do this and that. No, dude, like, that's what compromise is. I feel like you're not compromising part of yourself, but you're compromising in that, like, I'm willing to take on a little bit extra chores, or I'm willing to take a little extra on because I know that when I need you to do that, you'll do that for me. So I got to be there and do that for you. And it's just being present in that and taking that moment to not react and be like, oh shit, if I'm reacting, I'm being a dick.
Yeah, I think like you said, look for patterns, like, of things, and you know, people using therapy speak. You kind of got to stop them, like, immediately, because if they're using, like, therapy speak to kind of get you out of your comfort zone, and it's like, bruh, you're trying to treat me like a child. In my personal opinion, it feels like you're trying to treat me like a child and use therapy skills on me. No, that don't do that. Talk to me like,
yeah. I mean, and
like we're people.
Yeah. And that's I mean, then there's that boundary where you're like, hey, these are some things that I noticed. Are you in a place? And it sounds so formal when you have to communicate that way, obviously. But if I mean, you can also open up the question like, hey, are you in a position to have this conversation?
Yeah.
Because I might say something that sounds like therapy speak, and I may have learned it in therapy or a book I read or a video I watched or something that I've learned on my journey of this topic we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And if they're like, you know what, man, today's not the day. Because you might talk to somebody in therapy speak on one day and they're not into it. And you might talk to them on another day and they might completely receive it. Yeah. So it might be also good to be just open the door and be like, hey, there's some things that I'm noticing. Are you in a position or a place where you're like, maybe we could have this discussion, or or not, because it's not life or death. Because I've noticed there's some times where I'm like, I'll have an issue with something, and if I bring it up in a certain way, then it sounds like I've been holding on to it, and it's just been eating at me. But instead, if you are conscious of what that is, and then when the topic comes up naturally, then you can be then when you talk on it, it's softer. You're receiving it nicer. You're receiving it in a way where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I have been noticing that too. I've been noticing, yeah, I know, and I've been feeling the same way, and I've been feeling kind of in my head about it, and and you're like, oh shit, okay, cool, yeah, and then it's like more fluid that way. But if you just kind of come at it harshly, then yeah, man, you might get a lot of pushback on something like that because you're talking about behavior, and you're talking about very sensitive things.
Yeah, because I've had it happen to me where I was dealing with somebody and they were using therapy speak on me, and I'm like, bruh, no.
Yeah.
No. Don't do that to me.
What was that like?
It wasn't the greatest because, I mean, like, I you know how you kind of, if you're going through therapy for a while, you kind of already know, like, certain things, like, the therapist is going to ask you and certain things they're going to do, and it's like, when your person starts doing that, like, nah, you're not my therapist. I don't want you to be my therapist. Like, talk to me as my partner. Like, it feels weird. Like, now I feel like you're fine. You're trying to, what's the word? It doesn't feel right when it's your partner doing it. It just feels disgusting. Like, oh, you're just, I don't know. I feel like you're playing with me right now. You're playing games. I don't got, no.
No, that's an interesting take, because I don't know, like in my experience, sometimes it is very difficult to hear some therapy speak from a partner, but if my partner is the person who I'm around all the time, and that person is going to see a lot of my behavior traits from a third person perspective than my first person perspective, they might be seeing some things that I'm not, right? It's like when you're doing your work, and then and so sometimes, like, it does come off very forward, and sometimes it can feel weird because, ouch, I didn't ask for that. But at the same time,
and that's fine in certain cases, yes. But when it does feel like, after time, it sometimes feels like there's a mix of manipulation in that,
Yeah.
where it's like,
Hey.
I don't know. I've been doing this for a while, and now things have changed because
Yeah.
what's happening? So you know,
Hey,
then
real
that
quick,
person tries to make you feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on identifying and responding to weaponized therapy towards you or somebody around you? What are your thoughts on trying
Like, to identify it?
Yeah, like what recommendations would you give people on, like, just if they notice these specific behaviors, what to do, what to say, what to do, things.
I mean, if you feel like somebody is saying something to you and it doesn't feel like there is a way where somebody, okay, when somebody says something to you in like the workplace, right? There's a way, some like when somebody says something to you where you're like, okay, I hear you, I hear what that is, and I can use that to like complete my task. Like, yeah, I got you. I can take care of that. And then there's another way where sometimes management will say something to you in a way where it really makes it feel like you feel like shit after they ask you, right? Mm-hmm. The same thing goes for this, is that if somebody is saying something to you and it feels constructive, and that in and of itself, it takes some wherewithal to know, what constructive, what that looks like. So if it feels like it's constructive and you take a step back where you're like, oh, I didn't realize that, or oh yeah, okay, no, I have been thinking about that, and you can kind of, then that's one thing, because and when you learn something new about yourself, there is a certain like you have to have a little bit of uncomfortable, that's okay. It's okay to be a little uncomfortable. We are in a day and age where comfort is king, and we don't get uncomfortable very often. Yep. But if you hear it and it makes you kind of get a stink face, and not in a good one, you're like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Or it just like it really feels like, dude, that felt harsh, dude. That felt spiky. That felt spicy. Like, what the fuck?
And that's the thing. It's like when you pay attention to the people around you and things that are being said, and you notice patterns, that's when it's like, something has changed, something is shifting. Let me pay more attention to it to make sure I'm not crazy. And a lot of times, me personally, whenever I feel like something is said about my behavior, or something is told to me, I always ask my other friends. I feel like everybody has those close friends that know you enough to be like, yes, this has changed, or no, this hasn't changed about you. You're still the same. And I feel like we all have that. I've had situations where I've been told, hey, Kev, you're this type of person, you're this type of person. And I'm like, fuck, am I? And I'm thinking to myself, I want to correct that behavior because it's making someone feel bad. And then I talk to my friends and I talk to my brother, and they're just like, yeah, no, that don't sound like you at all. Yeah, no. And the thing is, they're the type of people that would say, oh, Kev, yeah, that's definitely you. You should correct that. Fine, cool. Thank you for letting me know.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like be receptive to constructive criticism if it is constructive criticism. Other times it may just be somebody just using terminology on you, and just because they learn new terminology, and they're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna throw it at you.
What you had said is brilliant, because it's like getting a second opinion. You go to the doctor and they tell you something's wrong with you. Well, okay, I'm gonna get a second opinion. I gotta check in and see. Yeah. See, so I get a different perspective. So say if your partner is saying one thing about you, right? Yeah. But your support circle, the one who's known you their own, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay. She might have a point on these things, but on these things, not so much. Or that doesn't sound like you at all. That sounds like you're being gaslit, or that sounds like you're
Yeah.
being, that's what this looks like to me. So then it gives you a better picture of how to maybe move forward. Now you can react again, or you can, the more you know yourself, the calmer you can be in these situations. But
Correct. And I think, take a moment to, I always try to take a moment to absorb what people are saying and information they're providing me. Sit back. I'm not going to respond right now. I'm going to wait. Give me some time to respond. I let people I'm not going to respond right now. I'm still absorbing what you're giving me. Give it a moment. Think about it. Write it down, and see if it makes sense or not. And just take, like you just said, take it to somebody else for a second opinion. Because in some cases, those core people around you will definitely tell you how you are, how you behave. You can't have yes men around you. You can never have yes men around you. People that can't, correct your behavior, correct things you're doing. You can't have those type of people, like yes men. Hey, nope, that's you. Nope, like yes, Kevin, no. You need people that be like, no, that is, nope. You need to correct that. You need to fix that. And I feel like everybody needs that.
yeah, it's good. It's good to have somebody to bounce that off of you, because it's just, I don't know, it's just good. It's just good because you can. It's very easy to get into a echo chamber or have like a myopic outlook on things where you're not seeing the other perspective, or you're not open to that. And having that is just such a vital tool.
I agree.
Especially when it comes to growth.
Yeah, definitely. But as we get to the end of this episode, what do you want to leave people with on weaponizing therapy?
There is something to be said, is that, I don't know, what's that saying? So you don't mistake malice what can be described as ignorance, or I can't remember the saying, but it's basically like what I'm trying to get at with that is that, like, everyone is experiencing life from their perspective, and sometimes when somebody is hasn't drank enough water, hasn't been taking care of themselves, or has an insecurity, or whatever, I have those too, and I go through that too. And if somebody is saying something to me that I don't like, I can also just remind myself, just like me, what they are going through is something I go through. Mm-hmm. And try to be as level-headed as possible, because it's all about the communication in that. And sometimes they don't know how to handle it, and sometimes you don't know how to handle it. So the best thing I can do to leave anybody with anything is just stop, breathe. And it's so hard. It is so hard to do, especially when we're like on edge, stressed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lack of sleep, whatever your geopolitical, whatever is affecting your life, is it just give yourself grace to experience what you're experiencing.
Word. That's it. And thank you for joining me for this episode. You guys can find me on all social media platforms at Random Guy Kev, and my website randomguykev.com. Don't forget to check in, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.